time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, could a more Conservative leader save the Tories? Morley and Outwood MP Andrew Jenkins has called for Rishi Sunak to be replaced with a real Conservative Party leader. She was talking to me yesterday. Let's see what she had to say. So who do you think, then?
Who do I think? I mean, I'm happy with Priti, Suella. I mean, I'd bring back Boris, to be honest with you.
Really?
He's still... I'd want him to clearly ditch the net zero stuff. But when I'm campaigning, he's still so positively strong response on the doorstep.
Well, this comes as many angry Tory members inundated the Bring Back Boris campaign with messages of support following the Wellingborough and Kingswood by-election defeats. Reform UK Honorary President GB News presenter Nigel Farage has even said that he believes Conservative members would choose him to be the next leader. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, well, he would say that, wouldn't he? Could a more Conservative leader, they'd probably choose me, could a more Conservative leader save the Tories? Well, joining me to debate this is political commentator Russell Quirk, social commentator Jim Dale, Conservative peer Lord Moylan, and former leader of UKIP Henry Bolton. That's the wrong box, it should be a star box. I'm the biggest box. Right, I'm going to start with you. Lord Moylan, because I was reading what you said in the Daily Telegraph, if you could elaborate on what you said.
Well, there's a poll out today which indicates, as so many polls do, that you could conceivably see a path to victory if you had a new leader of the party and new, more Conservative policies. And all I was saying in the Telegraph today is that I don't think that, at this stage, that is a realistic way forward. Unless Rishi Sunak decided voluntarily to give up being Prime Minister, the mechanism for a change of leadership is just too lengthy and too elaborate. And it's still also the case that there's a large number of MPs, or I'll put it another way, there's no real agreement within the Conservative Party in the House of Commons on a new set of policies. So you can't just switch to a whole new set of policies if many of your MPs don't want to move in that direction. So that second leg is pretty unrealistic as well. So I was saying, really, probably the best way of addressing this now is to bring the election forward. Because I don't see it getting any better. Really?
It's interesting because Dame Andrew Jenkins suggested that actually we could have a leadership contest. I said, well, the 6 weeks in between, she said it's not that long. We could do that quickly and get a new leader if there's any hope. So just say they went along that track, a new leader. Let's give an example of Suella Braverman. Very briefly, Lord Morland, do you think that could help their fortunes?
Yeah, well, I think one of the other problems is, I think Suella would be a very fine leader of the party, but and there are others as well. But I think one of the problems is that we've got this additional difficulty that a lot of the electorate have just stopped listening to the Conservative Party. And they're not really persuaded, you've gotten some new policies, pull the other one. They're not really that interested in a new leader. I think people, have stopped listening in a way. That's one of the problems.
Russell Quirk, what do you think?
Hi, Noah. Look, we are potentially 10 months away from a general election. So the election needs to be called by January 2025. And look, we used to say that a week is a long time in politics, let alone 10 months. And frankly, the Conservative Party have absolutely nothing to lose but to replace Rishi Sunak. And frankly, given the results on Thursday in 2 by-elections, with another one just around the corner, a lot of leaders have been replaced for, far less indiscretion politically than Rishi Sunak brought us to on Thursday. I do think that given the latest poll that I saw said that something like 25% of people that voted Conservative in 2019 will vote Conservative again at the next election. In other words, 75% of Conservative voters that voted in 2019 will not vote Conservative. The Conservative Party have nothing to lose. I'm personally, because I really fear a Labour government, a Keir Starmer administration, because we all know, those of us in the centre and on the centre right, how that's going to end up in 3 to 4 years' time. To save us from that fate and for an even worse economy, even worse position when it comes to not protecting our borders, crime, identity politics, high taxation and so on. I think rather than going into an election, certainly now, and us as a party facing Armageddon, and then hoping for the best over the next 5 years, where then it all gets back to normal and there's a kind of cleansing with a new leader. We do still have time. And actually, I agree with the Suella Braverman point.
Really?
But also, let's not forget Lord David Frost. Lord David Frost, I think, is the man that should be Prime Minister of this country, with Boris Johnson as...
Yeah, but what about... But that's great, but what about the people whilst they're doing this 6-month election? Jim Dale.
Yeah, the question is, will the Tories do better with a more conservative leader? If that means going further to the right, they'll be through this wall and in the canal, to be frank with you. Because basically, as far as general elections are concerned, anybody's on the fringe of politics, and I would include extreme right as being on the fringe, or the extreme left as being on the fringe, you don't get elected. It's as simple as that. So if they're going to shift from Sunak, who's pretty far right anyway, and go even further right, then that's just going to send them even further into oblivion. Look, let's face it, let's be very, very simple about it. Sunak is sunk. With or without him, the Tories are sunk. Simple.
Yeah, it's true. If you take the A out of there, then he is. Yeah, he is actually sunk.
You noticed, yeah.
Henry Bolton.
Yeah, I agree with Lord Moynihan in terms of the practicalities, the logistics of changing leader. The time is very, very short. But I think at the same time, if you are heading towards an iceberg at full steam ahead and the captain refuses to change course, then what do? You just sort of prepare the lifeboats, or you try to move the captain aside and change course. I would do the latter. Well, I'd probably do both, actually. But I think there is time. But then we've also got to have a leader who can unite the Conservative Party, if it's going to work. A leader who is going to have a plan ready to go on day one, and not just simply be able to tell the electorate, look, you know, these are the new policies, or this is the new plan, but actually demonstrate within days a determined engagement on implementing that plan. Then it's possible. But at the moment, I think the Conservatives are on course to an absolute decimation, and we'll end up with a Labour government, which I fear.
Well, a lot of people are fearing that. I mean, Lord Moylan, do you think that they're... I mean, you suggested a different leader. Do you think there's any modicum of hope for the Tory party? Is there anything they can do?
Well, there's always...
Because we're suggesting
I didn't
being more
suggest changing leader. That's the difference. I'm not actually suggesting changing leader because I don't actually think there's time to do it, implement it, and do it in a way that's credible to the voters. That's the real difficulty we face. But what I am... I do think there is always hope. Of course, hope should never be abandoned. And it is possible that things will get better on the economic front, that the boats will stop, that inflation, cost of living will come down, and so on. But I don't see the signs, really, of that happening in a way that is going to carry enough people with us to make a huge difference. But it's possible that we could have a better outcome a few months down the road than we would if we were going today. But then it's also possible things are going to get worse, and people are rolling off fixed-rate mortgages, for example, and seeing their mortgage payments go up. There'll be more people doing that. That will add to the cost of living crisis. And we don't know what's going to happen with boats because we're not in charge, and if the summer weather is placid and the seas are flat, who knows how many might come across. We're not in charge of that.
Well, what I was reading here is a Tory peer, Lord Moylan, this is in the Telegraph, said the party had a possible path to victory if it got rid of Mr Sunak.
I was quoting the poll there. That got slightly bangled by the but I was saying that's what the poll today shows. But then I went on to say if that is the path to victory, there are considerable difficulties involved with both parts of it.
Jim Dale.
Yeah, when you look at things that work and don't work, you sometimes look at the brand. The Conservative brand is destroyed. That is the problem. It's been destroyed from within in terms of what they've done and what they've not done. And when you have a brand that's not just tarnished but in wrecks, you ain't gonna come back at that. That's why the polls have more or less stayed as they have. That's why you've seen the by-elections results that you've seen this week. And there's no rescue party. Reform are not going to be the next government in any shape or form. They'll come probably fourth and not even third. So there's only one way, one direction, and that is bring on a general election and you will see a change of government.
All right. Well, listen, I'm going to ask you all finally then. So will a potential change, I think we know the answer, could a more Conservative leader save the Tories, Russell Quirk, yes or no?
Yes, can I just quickly correct Jim, though? Jim saying that Rishi Sunak is far right is absolutely unbelievable. Not only is it insulting, it's
I
just
didn't say
simply
far
not
right.
true.
I don't think he said...
No, I didn't.
What did you say?
I didn't. I said
This
to the right.
Conservative Party, the problem with the Conservative Party is that it has gone too left. It actually needs to fulfil the manifesto pledges of 2019. Then it might get...
So very briefly then, so a more Conservative leader, could a more Conservative leader save the Tories, yes or no? Russell?
Yes.
Yes. Jim Dale, yes or no?
Not a chance.
Lord Moylan, yes or no?
Possibly if it could be done by magic, where you just pull a curtain and you have a new... and all of a sudden you have a new
Same
leader with new policies. If that were possible, then it might be a path to victory.
Henry Bolton,
yes,
or no?
Yes, if it can be done, and yes, if the policies are ready to go with agreement across the party, which I don't think will happen.